Hello everyone. I thought I'd show you what is changed in the new upcoming update for Easy Template Kit. I have focused on behavior this time. I've included two entirely new types of behavior graphs. These are really different than what was in here there before as a beta and what I've shown on the channel so far. So these are a lot more elaborate. The focus here was on actual stealth as well. So, the player actually remaining out of sight, stealth actually really working this time, just like you're familiar with in other games. It was also focused on different lines of sight. So if the enemy sees the player from a distance, he's going to investigate rather than immediately engage in action. Yes, this is still based on perception, but there's just different distances. If we are closer, he will engage in combat because he's sure, um, he's seeing an enemy basically. The way this works is that on the moment of sight, the player will leave a marker at his spot, which the enemy will investigate. Now, the enemy is a lot more elaborate than that. I've also completely changed the way patrolling works, for example. So yes, we're still reliant on markers. However, this time around, there's no fixed route. So at the moment of start, there's no routes played out. It completely depends on where the enemy is located, how he will walk the route. And this can be different each time you press play even. Might slightly differ. So a pretty interesting approach, completely different, a lot more dynamic as well. This also means that if you lose the player after he's been following you, he will actually go to the closest marker to him and then he will resume patrol. And that patrol will be gathered at the moment of reaching that first target. So it's completely dynamic. This could even mean that you could, dynamically add markers to his route as well if you wanted to, which could be quite interesting actually. So let's see how this works. So right now the enemy is behind these white walls, he's walking his route and he's coming closer towards the player. Now I'm going to pause here. So what this white little marker above his head means is that he spotted the player, but not close enough yet, so he's actually going to investigate. Now if we actually go into the editor, we see a new marker being placed. So let me actually highlight what the markers are by default. So we have this marker, this marker, this marker, this marker, this one and this one. This wasn't here. So this is actually the first marker the player leaves because this is where he's been spotted. Now at the moment the game started, he walked to the closest marker to him and then scanned all of the other markers in the vicinity and walked his route. Now sometimes he will go like this. Sometimes he'll just go like this immediately or even go straight to this one. So it will be different. It will not be as pre-scripted as usual, which is quite interesting. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be walking away right now. So, basically trying to hide. And yes, he will go to that marker. And I'm going to be hiding again. And I'll try to remain out of sight. And the reason he also walked to this marker, by the way, I do want to highlight that, is because it's no fun if, he only goes to the first marker. It has to remain a bit interesting, otherwise losing an enemy is just way too easy. That's my opinion. Obviously, you can go into the behavior graph and edit that. I've added a document that kind of explains how it works as well. In big lines, just follow the actions in general. But I didn't want it to be too easy either. So getting away from an enemy shouldn't just be go around the corner and you're done. If you want that, you can just remove a couple of instances of leaving a marker and that's it. But that's up to you. Now in this case we've actually lost the enemy, so he no longer sees us and he is going to walk a patrol. So he's going to basically gather some tags, and I'm going to go into this volume right here, and he's just going to resume patrol. He's going to walk wherever he wants to. And that's pretty much it. That's how it's going to be working. And that's, it's a lot more interesting. It's a lot more dynamic than it used to be as well. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be hiding behind some cover here. And this way I'll demonstrate how, hiding out of sight works as well. So at some point he'll walk past us again, um, which should be relatively soon, I hope. Now, just to be clear, the markers the player leaves are not going to be part of his new patrol. They are completely different types of markers. Now, as you can see, he's walking here, and despite being in his range, he cannot see us. And there's nothing special here about this block. It literally is just a block, nothing else. And the reason for that is I wanted to highlight that when we are crouching, the actual character controller has become a lot smaller, so we can no longer be in sight. Now, if we would move further backwards, his perception would actually spot us. So this object is only blocking it if we are close to it. So this doesn't mean we can just sneak in front of the enemy and he will never spot us. So this time around, I will go into hiding, and then I will let him spot us, but from up close. So I do want to show how that works. And yes, he'll be shooting a bit fast. Obviously, you can change that in the actions if you want it to be a bit easier. But I thought it would be interesting. So as you can see, he's coming closer now, and now he spotted us, and he will start shooting straight away. As you can see, there are some blood spatters here as well. And the blood spatters are instantiated on the actual place of impact. And we actually lost track of him again this time. And yeah, he'll now just wander around, continue his patrol again. He will be a bit more aggressive, as you can see. He'll grab this marker now instead of just going to this one, and he'll walk a different route than he usually does. So it's a lot more dynamic. Now, the instantiating of blood spatters happens on the place of actual impact. For melee it doesn't, because this is not a place we can store. For shooter, however, it is. And this also works for the player himself. So if we shoot an enemy in the head, we'll actually be getting a different location for the actual blood spatter. So makes it a lot more interesting in my opinion. Now, I've made the perception cones not too big, so by default I think it should be 114, which is pretty much close to what humans would actually spot. I personally found that to be a bit too hard at times, a bit less fun, but you can change that back if you want to. So yeah, that's pretty much how it all works. Obviously, this red marker is still our takedown marker, so we can still take down enemies as well, which is part of the fun. These are height volumes, which I have in my normal scenes as well. So once you're inside of this volume, think of it of, grass, for example, in some games. And yes, we're spotted again, so I'm going to run away. We leave a new marker. We'll leave one again, but this time I'm going into the height volume. As you can see, we leave a second marker, and no, you don't have to do that. That's completely optional, but I do think it makes things a bit more interesting than it usually does. And now I wanted to sneak up on him, but I got a bit too close. So that's it for this video. I just wanted to show a couple of the things I've done. New behaviors are a lot more interesting than the ones before. There is one for melee as well, which works pretty much exactly the same as the shooter one. The difference is that he'll be using melee instead of shooter. For the upcoming updates, I will be focusing on adding support for some unofficial modules as well. Obviously the official modules are the ones most people will have. A lot of the unofficial modules are absolutely great, so I want to focus on adding support for those as well. So thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next one.